Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly, maybe in the evening, after dinner, the house calm, the day behind you, and your mind drifts back to something you wish had gone differently? Maybe a decision you made years ago, maybe a word you didn't say, or one you wish you could take back. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Everyone carries a few of those memories that tug at the heart. But as the years go by, especially after 65, those regrets can start to feel heavier than they should. This stage of life should be about peace, not guilt. It's about morning coffee without rush, quiet walks without comparison, and the gentle wisdom that comes from simply having lived. Yet, too often, we let old regrets steal that peace, like little ghosts in the past whispering that we should have done more, been better, tried harder. But here's the truth. Regret is not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that you cared. You cared enough to wish you could have done better. And that's something to be proud of, not ashamed of. So today, we're talking about 5 regrets that you must let go of after 65 if you truly want to find peace. Not because they're small or unimportant, but because holding on to them does nothing for you anymore. It's time to release that weight. Let's start with one of the biggest regrets people carry later in life. The regret of not forgiving sooner. Forgiveness is one of those tricky words that sounds peaceful, but feels like swallowing glass when you first try. Maybe you've been hurt deeply by someone, a family member, a friend, or even a spouse who didn't live up to the promises they made. Maybe you were the one who made the mistake, and the hardest person to forgive is the one in the mirror. But here's what most people don't realize. Forgiveness isn't about saying it's okay. It's about saying, this no longer has control over me. Think about how many times that memory, whatever it is, has replayed in your mind. Each time it shows up, it drains a bit of your peace, a bit of your joy. It's like carrying around a heavy box you no longer need, but you keep lifting it anyway. You don't owe anyone forgiveness for their sake. You owe it to yourself. Life after 65 should be lighter, not burdened by what can't be changed. Forgiving doesn't rewrite the past, but it does rewrite how the past feels inside you. There's an old saying that goes, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The body knows when the heart is heavy. Stress, bitterness, and resentment can all affect your sleep, your digestion, even your memory. But when you finally decide to let go, not because they deserve peace, but because you do, something shifts. You stop waking up to yesterday's pain. You start waking up to today's possibilities. Now, another regret that weighs on many hearts is this. I wish I'd stayed closer to the people who mattered. Maybe there was an old friend you drifted away from, or family you didn't visit as much as you wanted to. Sometimes we tell ourselves, I'll call them next week. But weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. Until one day, you realize it's been a decade since you last heard their voice. It's not always because of anger or pride. Sometimes life just gets busy. You raise kids, you work hard, you deal with your own struggles. But connection, true connection, is one of the few things that makes this whole human experience worth it. You don't need a big circle of people. Just one or two who make you laugh, who listen when you speak, who remember your stories even when you forget the details. If you've lost touch with someone you once loved, don't let the fear of awkwardness keep you from reaching out. A simple, "Hey, I was thinking about you," can bridge years of silence. And if they're no longer here, if time has already taken them, then honor them by reaching out to someone else who's still around. Every moment you spend connecting, you're healing a piece of that regret. You see, loneliness in older age isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected from meaning. And often, that meaning lives in our relationships. You may not be able to relive old memories, but you can create new ones. Maybe it's as simple as starting a weekly coffee date, or joining a small community group, or writing a letter to someone who once meant a lot. Don't wait for others to take the first step. You've waited long enough. Another common regret people carry is the feeling that they wasted too much time. Maybe you look back and think of years that slipped away in jobs you didn't love, routines that dulled your spark, or dreams you told yourself were too impractical. But here's something most people forget. The time wasn't wasted just because it wasn't perfect. Every experience taught you something. Every season, even the dull or painful ones, shaped who you are right now. You might not have written that book, started that business, or traveled to all the places on your list, but that doesn't mean your time was meaningless. Think of how many lives you touched without even realizing it. The child you raised, the neighbor you helped, the quiet kindness you offered that made someone's day a little better. Those are not wasted years. They're unseen victories. And here's the beautiful part. Your story isn't finished. There are still chapters left to write, even if they look different from what you imagined in your 20s or 30s. Maybe it's painting or gardening or mentoring someone younger. Maybe it's finally doing something just because it makes you happy, not because it's productive. Regret feeds on the idea that your best days are behind you, but peace grows when you start believing there's still something wonderful ahead. Letting go of the idea of wasted time means forgiving your younger self for not knowing what you know now. You did the best you could with what you had. And now, with all the wisdom you've gathered, you get to live differently. Not to make up for lost time, but to enjoy the time you have left with more peace and presence. Now that we let go of those first few regrets about forgiveness, lost connections, and wasted time, it's time to move even deeper to the ones that quietly linger beneath the surface. Because sometimes the hardest regrets aren't about what you did wrong, but about what you never allowed yourself to do at all. You know, one of the quietest but most powerful regrets people feel as they grow older isn't about something they did. It's about what they didn't do, the risks they never took, the adventures they postponed because life felt too busy or too uncertain. Maybe there was that dream vacation you promised yourself when the kids were older, or that hobby you always thought you'd try when you had more time. But somehow, time just kept moving, and you kept telling yourself, maybe next year. And then next year came and went. Here's the truth, though. It's never really too late. You might not be climbing mountains or backpacking through Europe, but that spark inside you, the one that still wonders what if, is proof that life hasn't stopped giving you chances. It just asks you to take them in a different way. Maybe it's finally learning that instrument you always loved the sound of. Maybe it's joining a travel group for seniors and seeing one new place a year. Or maybe it's something as simple as trying a new recipe, or finally writing that memoir you've always carried inside your heart. The regret of not living boldly enough has less to do with age and more to do with permission. When you were younger, you were probably busy doing what you had to do, raising a family, working, paying bills, making sure everything and everyone else was okay. But now you get to do what you want to do. You've earned that right. The courage to say yes to life again doesn't come from youth. It comes from wisdom, from knowing that tomorrow isn't promised, but today still is. Historians still argue whether Vikings really discovered North America before Columbus. But one thing for sure, they didn't sit around waiting for perfect conditions before setting sail. Sometimes, peace comes not from staying safe, but from setting sail again, even if it's just towards something small and personal. The day you start living for yourself again, really living, is the day regret starts to loosen its grip. Another regret that often lingers quietly in the background is this one. I wish I had taken better care of myself. You might hear that and think of health. And yes, that's a big part of it. Maybe you wish you'd eaten better, exercised more, or gotten those checkups you used to put off. But this kind of self-care goes beyond just a physical. It's about emotional care, too. When you spend decades putting others first, your kids, your spouse, your work, it's easy to lose track of your own needs. Many people in their later years realize they spent so long being strong for everyone else that they forgot how to be gentle with themselves. But your body, your mind, and your heart, they all still respond to love, even now. So maybe it's not about regretting what you didn't do back then, but asking, what can I start doing today? Maybe it's stretching every morning just to feel your body wake up. Maybe it's talking kindly to yourself when you make small mistakes. Or maybe it's forgiving your body for not being what it once was and thanking it for still carrying you through this world. You see, peace after 65 isn't found by pretending you're still 30. It's found by embracing the version of you that's here now. Wrinkles, wisdom, and all. The body you have is not your enemy. It's your lifelong companion. Treat it gently. Feed it kindly, move it joyfully. You might be surprised how much energy and comfort return when you stop regretting what you lost and start appreciating what you still have. And that leads us to another big one, a regret that so many people whisper about but rarely say out loud. I wish I had spoken my truth more often. Maybe you spent years biting your tongue to keep the peace. You didn't want to upset anyone, didn't want to cause drama or seem ungrateful. But deep down, maybe there were moments when you want to say, this hurt me, or I deserve better, or even, I have dreams too. When you hold back your truth for too long, it doesn't disappear. It just settles somewhere deep inside you, where it turns into quiet frustration or sadness. And sometimes that frustration comes out in other ways, snapping at loved ones, or feeling restless and not knowing why. But speaking your truth isn't about being confrontational. It's about being authentic, about letting yourself be seen, heard, and understood. If you've carried years of unspoken feelings, it's never too late to express them. Not to demand an apology or prove a point, but to finally free yourself from silence. You might not even need to say it to the person directly. Writing it down, talking to a friend, or simply acknowledging aloud to yourself can be powerful. The biggest misconception about peace is that it comes from keeping quiet and avoiding conflict. But real peace comes from honesty, living in a way that aligns with your heart. When you stop pretending, you stop feeling the need to regret so much. And when you speak your truth with kindness, not anger, people often hear in ways you never expected. Now, before we move on, let's take a small pause to reflect. Think for a moment about all the things you've already survived, the heartbreaks, the losses, the changes that you once thought you'd never get through. And yet, here you are, breathing, watching, listening, still capable of joy, still capable of growth. The regrets you carry don't define you. They're just reminders of the life you've lived, a life full of lessons, laughter, and love, even if it didn't always go as planned. The goal isn't to erase the past. It's to make peace with it, one piece at a time. Because when you do that, something beautiful happens. The future, yes, even after 65, starts to open up again. You start to realize that peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you choose moment by moment. You choose it when you forgive. You choose it when you reconnect. You choose it when you take care of yourself. And you choose it when you finally speak your truth. And as we continue, we'll look at one of the deepest regrets of all, the one that hides beneath the surface, shaping how we see ourselves and our place in the world. It's the regret that keeps so many hearts from ever truly resting. There's a quiet kind of regret that settles in for many people as they grow older. Not loud, not obvious, but soft and persistent, like a whisper that follows you through your days. It's the regret of not being kinder to yourself along the way. Maybe you spent most of your life holding yourself to impossible standards. You did your best to be a good parent, a reliable worker, a responsible partner. And yet, when things didn't turn out perfectly, who did you blame first? Yourself. It's strange, isn't it? How easy it is to show compassion to others, and yet how rarely we offer to ourselves. You might have forgiven people who hurt you years ago, but still replay your own mistakes like a movie you can't turn off. If only I'd been smarter with money. If only I'd said no sooner. If only I'd tried harder to keep that relationship together. But here's something you may have never told yourself. You deserve the same gentleness you've always given to others. Regret often grows from perfectionism. The feeling that if you'd just done everything right, you could have avoided pain. But that's not how life works, is it? Life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning, adjusting, and still finding beauty even when things fall apart. You've lived long enough to know that mistakes are inevitable, and yet every single one has taught you something valuable. You can't go back and change your past self, but you can decide that the person you are now deserves peace. So let yourself off the hook. Truly, you did what you could with the tools, understanding, and energy you had at the time. If you'd known more, you would have done more. That's not failure. That's being human. The day you stop punishing yourself for not being perfect is the day you start to breathe freely again. And that kind of freedom at this stage in life is priceless. Another regret that many people quietly hold on to is, I wish I'd enjoyed the little things more. You see, it's not the big milestones that make a life feel full. It's the small, ordinary moments that we often overlook. The laughter during dinner, the smell of coffee in the morning, the warmth of sunlight through a window. Those moments that seem too small to notice at the time are often the ones we miss most later on. It's so easy to look back and realize how fast it all went. The children who grew up in what felt like a blink, the seasons that came and went, the years that folded into each other like pages in a book. But peace begins when you stop chasing the grand and start noticing the simple. When you sit quietly and feel grateful, not for what was perfect, but for what was real. You might not realize it, but you're still surrounded by small joys every day. Maybe it's a phone call from a friend, a song that reminds you of a younger time, or the soft sound of rain on the roof. When you start noticing those things again, something in your heart begins to soften. Gratitude doesn't erase regret, but it shifts your focus from what's gone to what remains. There's a reason wise people say that gratitude is the gateway to peace. Because you can't be thankful and regretful at the same time. It's like trying to walk in two directions. Gratitude gently pulls you forward. And at this stage of life, forward is exactly where you belong. Now, before we bring this conversation to a close, let's talk about perhaps the most important regret of all, the fear of having run out of time to make things right. This one hits hard for a lot of people. You might look around and think, I'm too old to change now. Or what's the point? The past is already written. But let me tell you something. Your story isn't done yet. Every morning you wake up is another chance to rewrite what tomorrow feels like. You may not be able to change the past chapters, but you can absolutely shape the ending. Maybe that means apologizing to someone you've been distant from. Maybe it means forgiving yourself for dreams that didn't happen. Or maybe it's simply choosing to live your remaining years with less worry and more joy. It's not about the years behind you. It's about the peace you can still create in the years ahead. Some of the most inspiring people you'll ever meet are those who found their purpose late in life. They didn't let regret define them. They let it remind them that time is precious and peace is always possible. You see, peace doesn't come from pretending your past didn't happen. It comes from finally saying, yes, it did happen, but it no longer controls me. When you make peace with your past, you give your future permission to bloom again. And that's really the heart of it all. Letting go of guilt, of old anger, of the illusion that you should have done life differently. Because you lived it the only way you could, with love, with effort, with hope. And that's enough. So, as we close, take a slow breath. Feel your shoulders relax. Think of all the people you've loved, all the laughter that's passed through your home, all the challenges you've overcome. You've lived a real, full, imperfect, beautiful life. And peace, the kind that lasts, isn't found in perfection. It's found in acceptance. If any part of today's message spoke to you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe tell me which regret you're finally ready to let go of, or how you found peace in your own journey. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. And if this video brought you even a small sense of calm, go ahead and like it. It helps others find it too. Subscribe if you'd like to join our little corner of quiet reflection, where every week we talk about living lighter, happier, and more at peace, no matter your age. You've earned the right to rest your heart, to smile at your memories, and to move forward without the heavy weight of what if. Here's to forgiving yourself, cherishing what remains, and finding peace, not someday, but starting right now. Here's to living your best life, at any age.